Algebra 2 students to the homework up video, page 21, numbers 17 through 42. Let's go ahead and get started with your homework help video for today. Alright, number 17, we are going to solve the equation. 17 through 22, we're going to solve the equation. So here we go. Sorry guys. We are going to, well, there's a lot of steps, but there's not a lot to do. You cannot simplify both sides. There's no fractions or decimals to get rid of. We're simply going to divide both sides by 16 because 16 is your coefficient. It is the number right next to the variable. These cancel, and x equals 8 over 16, which reduces to 1/2 or 0.5. If you put 8/16 for your answer on a test or a quiz, I will take points off, okay? You must reduce the fraction or write a decimal. Number 18, okay? Step 1, simplify both sides. We cannot do that. Next step, eliminate fractions and decimals. Nothing there to do. So let's get our variables on one side and our constant terms on the other. Bring your -7 over and it becomes a +7, okay? So x equals +18, +7, thus x equals 25, okay? 25. Moving on to number 19. Number 19, okay? Now, step 1, simplify both sides. We cannot simplify either side. These two terms here are unlike terms. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There's none of those. And then we still can't simplify. So we're going to get the x terms on one side and the constant terms on the other. So here's my variable term. Here's a constant term. Bring this -1 over and make it a +1. So I'm left with 8x equals +15, +1. Simplify this side over here. 8x equals 16. Divide both sides by 8 because 8 is your coefficient. And x equals 2. 16 divided by 8 is 2. Moving on to number 20. Same type of problem again. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's no simplifying I can do on this side or this side. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. There are none. And there's no simplifying I can do. So here's a variable term, constant term. Let's get all the constant terms on one side. Bring the 9 over and make it a -9. So I'm left with 5x equals +4, -9. Now, you owe me $4. Excuse me, you owe me $9. You pay 4 of it off, so you still owe me $5. Next, divide both sides by your coefficient. And your coefficient is this number right here. Divide both sides by 5. -5 divided by a +5 is a -1. So your answer is -1. Moving on to number 20. This is pretty simple, but it still might be a little tricky. Don't forget the negative sign here is attached to this term. It's a -2x. Okay, step 1, simplify both sides. There's no simplifying I can do here or here. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. There are none. So next, get your variable terms on one side and your constant terms on the other. So constant, variable, constant. Bring your 6 over and make it a -6. Now when you do that, you bring down your 2x. Don't forget to bring the negative sign with it, okay? It's very important. You then have a +5 and a -6. In other words, you owe me $6, you pay off 5, so you still owe me $1. Now, my coefficient's a -2, so I'm going to divide both sides by a -2. Watch your signs. Be careful. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. The answer is 1/2 or 0.5. Number 22. We are going to simplify both sides. There's no simplifying here or here that I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. fractions or decimals. There's none of those. Step 3, get your variable terms on one side and constant terms on the other. This is constant, variable, constant. So bring your 10 over here so that we have all of your constant terms on one side. When you bring the 10 over, it becomes negative. So I'm left with 7x equals 24 negative 10. Alright, now let's simplify the right side. You owe me $10. You have 24. So you pay off your $10 debt and you're left with $14 to the good. Your coefficient is 7. Divide both sides by 7 and x equals 2. 14 divided by 7 is 2. Moving on to 23. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's no simplifying we can do here. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. So we move on. There's no simplifying. This is a variable term. This is a constant term. Well, we need to move all of our variable terms to one side and all of our constant terms to the other side. However, we don't have to do that because it's already done for us. All of our variable terms are here. All of our constant terms are here. So the only thing you really need to do is divide both sides by 13. 52 divided by 13 is 4. Moving on to number 24. Okay, finally a little more challenging problem. Alright, step 1, we're going to simplify both sides. Well, there's nothing we can do to either side. Step 2, eliminate fractions. I've taught you when you eliminate fractions, look at the denominator. Well, here's a fraction we want to get rid of. The denominator is 2. So because the denominator is 2, we're going to multiply the entire fraction, or excuse me, the entire equation by 2. Now 2 over 1 times x over 2. Your 2's would cancel, leaving you with x over 1, or just x. But also negative 2 must be multiplied by the negative 5, which gives you negative 10. Now we're finished. Step 2, simplify. There's no simplifying. Or step 3. Step 4, get your variable terms on one side, constant terms on the other. That's done. Then divide by the coefficient. There's no coefficient right here, so we're finished. The answer is x equals negative 10. Okay, number 25. Step 1, we're going to simplify both sides. And obviously there's nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Well, my denominator is 3, so I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 3, or 3 over 1. 3 over 1 times x over 3. Your 3's would cancel, leaving you with x over 1, or negative x over 1. Negative x. Now a lot of students might see a negative sign here and decide to multiply the entire equation by a negative 3. That's fine. You will get the right answer as long as you don't make any mistakes. However, I don't recommend doing that because anytime you multiply by a negative number, you're lending yourself to possibly making little mistakes. So a positive times a negative gives you a negative x. A positive times a positive gives you a positive 18. Now moving on. Step 2, simplify both sides. That's already done. Next step, get your constant terms on one side, variable terms on the other. That's already done for you. And then lastly, divide by your coefficient. Now, you should know in algebra, by the time you're in algebra 2, you should know if there's no coefficient in front of the x, there's really a 1 there. So when it says negative x, it really means negative 1x. So we divide both sides by negative 1. These cancel. A positive divided by a negative is negative. 18 divided by 1 is 18. So your answer is negative 18. Alright, moving on to number 26. Alright, number 26. Let's see. Step 1 is to simplify both sides. There's nothing we can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. There's still nothing to simplify. The variable terms are on one side, the constant terms are on the other, so there's really nothing to do except divide by the coefficient. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 5. These cancel. A positive divided by a negative is negative. negative 6. So the answer is negative 6. Moving on to number 27. Okay, step 1, simplify both sides. There's no simplifying at all that you can do on either side. These are unlike terms over here. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Well, I have a 1/2 here. The bottom of the fraction, the denominator is a 2. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 2. 2 over 1. 2 over 1 times 1 over 2. Your 2's would cancel, leaving you with 1x or x. 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. 2 times 4 is 8. And now we're just about finished. Simplify both sides. There's no simplifying we can do. Variable term, constant term, constant term. Bring your 24 over. Make it a positive 24. So x equals 8 positive 24. So x equals 32. There's no coefficient right here to divide by. So you're finished. X equals 32. Number 28. Same thing. Here we go. Let me get a drink here real quick. Step 1, simplify both sides. Nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Nothing I can do. Step 3, get all of your constant terms on one side, variable terms on the other. Variable term, constant term, constant term. Bring your positive 5 over and make it a negative 5. So you're left with 3x equals positive 17, negative 5. Okay? Combine these two. You owe me $5, you have 17, you pay off your debt, and you're left with $12. Now divide by your coefficient, which is 3, and x equals 4. Alright? X equals 4. There we go. Number 29. Step 1, simplify both sides. Well, there's no simplifying I can do. Over here I have unlike terms. Over here I have unlike terms. So, there's no simplifying I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. There's none of those. Step 3, move your constant terms and variable terms around. So we have variable term, constant, variable, constant. It really doesn't matter where you put them. I'm going to go ahead and bring the x over here and make it a negative x. So this is gone. So I'm left with 2x, negative x. I'm going to bring the positive 3 over here and make it a negative 3. So it's gone. I have negative 7, negative 3. Now, there's a 1 right here in front of the x, don't forget. So combine your like terms. Positive 2, negative 1 would be 1x. Or just x. 1x or just x. You owe me 7, you owe me 3 more, you owe me $10. Well, there's no coefficient here to divide by, so we're basically finished. X equals negative 10. Moving on to 30. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's no simplifying here or here that I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. There's none of those. Step 3, let's move our terms around. Variable, constant, variable, constant. Let's do it different this time so you can see that it doesn't matter which side you move the variable terms to and which side you move the constant terms. It doesn't matter, okay? So let's bring the 5x over. And it becomes a negative 5x. Let's bring the positive 6 over here, and it becomes a negative 6. So I have negative 4, negative 6 equals positive 2x, negative 5x. Alright? Negative 4, negative 6, you owe me 4, you owe me 6. Now you owe me $10. Positive 2, negative 5, you owe me 5, you pay off 2, you still owe me 3, so negative 3. Now, simplify. We simplified both sides, now divide by the coefficient. These cancel, leaving you with x. Negative divided by a negative is positive. 10 divided by 3 is simply 10/3. Or you could put 3 and 1/3. Or you could put 3.3 repeating. Any of those answers are acceptable. Alright, moving on to number 31. Okay, number 31, we're going to simplify both sides. We can simplify this side. Take your 3 and multiply it through. Notice you cannot combine unlike terms. However, you can multiply unlike terms. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 6 here on the right side, we're going to take our 6 and distribute it through the parentheses. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times x is 6x. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. I don't see any. Next step, get your constant and variable terms on the same side. I'm going to bring my 3x over here and make it a negative 3x. I'm going to bring my positive 30 over here and make it a negative 30. So I have negative 30, negative 6 equals positive 6x, negative 3x. Well, you owe me 30, you owe me 6 more, negative 36. You have a positive 6, so you have $6, you owe me 3, pay off your debt, and you're left with positive 3. Divide by your coefficient. These cancel. A negative divided by a positive is negative. 36 divided by 3 is 12. Your answer is negative 12. Number 32, same type of problem. Step 1, simplify both sides. Take your 2 and multiply it through. 2 times 3 is 6. Now watch your signs. Positive 2 times a negative x is negative 2x. 16 times x is 16x. 16 times 1 is positive 16. Now, eliminate fractions or decimals. I don't see any. Simplify both sides. Again, there's nothing I can do. Unlike terms, unlike terms. So let's move our constant terms and our variable terms around. I'm going to bring my 2 and my negative 2x over and make it a positive 2x. I'm going to bring my positive 16 over and make it a negative 16. So I have 6, negative 16 equals 16x, positive 2x. A positive 6 and a negative 10. You have $6, you owe me 16, so you pay 6 off, you're left with negative 10. Positive 16, positive 2 is positive 18. Now your coefficient is 18, so we're going to divide both sides by 18. These will cancel. Negative divided by a positive is negative. 10 divided by 18 is 5/9. So you're welcome to put negative 5/9 for your answer. You're also welcome to put 0.5 repeating, which is the same thing as negative 5/9. So negative 0.5 repeating. However, you are not welcome to put 10/18. You must reduce your fractions if you're going to write your answer in fraction form. Okay, moving on to 33. Step 1, let's simplify both sides. Take your 4 and multiply it through. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 5 is 20. Take your 6 and multiply it through. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. Step 3, let's move our terms around. Let's bring our 4x over. We'll do it backwards. We'll do it the other way. Bring your 12x over and make it a negative 12x. Bring your positive 20 over and make it a negative 20. So we have 4 negative 12x. 4x negative 12x equals negative 6 negative 20. Well, you owe me $12. You pay off 4. You're left with negative 8. Negative 6, you owe me 6. You owe me 24. 20 more, so negative 26. Divide both sides by the coefficient. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 26 divided by 8 is 13/4. Okay? 13/4, which is the answer. Or you could put 3 and 1/4, which is the same thing. Or 3.25. All of those answers are acceptable. Alright, number 34. Now a little trick here, but still pretty simple. Step 1, simplify both sides. I'm going to take a negative 2, not a 2, but a negative 2, and multiply it through. Negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a positive is negative. Now take your 3 and multiply it through. 3 times x is 3x. Positive times a negative is negative. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. There are none. Step 3, move your variable and constant terms around. Bring your negative 6x over and make it a positive 6x. Bring your negative 6 over and make it a positive 6. You owe me $8. You pay off 6. We're left with negative 2. A positive 3 and a positive 6 is a positive 9. Now divide sides by 9 to get rid of your coefficient. A negative divided by a positive is a negative. Negative 2 nines equals x. Negative 2 nines equals x. Number 35. Okay, let's take your 3 and let's first of all simplify both sides. Now, when you multiply your 3 through the parentheses, do not multiply the 3 times the 6. The 6 is not inside the parentheses, so you do not do that. 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Bring down your positive 6. 4 times 2 is 8. 4 times negative x is negative 4x. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. There are none. Step 3, simplify again. And we cannot simplify the right side. We have a constant term with a variable term. However, over here we have a variable term and a constant term and a constant term. So these two terms here are like terms. So I can simplify and put those together. I have a negative 6 and a positive 6. Well, you owe me 6. You pay off 6. You're left with nothing. So we just have 3x. If you want to put 3x plus 0 or minus 0, you can do that, but there's no need. Now, the next step, let's get our variable terms on one side and our constant terms on the other. Bring your negative 4x over and make it a positive 4x. So I'm left with 7x, positive 3, positive 4. 7x equals 8. Divide both sides by 7. And I'm left with 8 sevenths is one answer. Or you can put 1 and 1/7. That would be totally acceptable. Or you could put 1.142857149, so 1.14 rounded. Any of those answers would be acceptable. Number 34. Okay, here we go. Let's simplify each side. Over here we could take a 7 and distribute it through. 7 times x is 7x. 7 times 1 is 7. Now let's look at the right side. Obviously the positive 1 right here is not right next to the parentheses, so we're not going to multiply it through the parentheses. However, we are going to multiply the negative 2 through. So it is a negative 2. So bring down your positive 1. Negative 2 times positive 5. Negative 10. Negative 2 times negative x. Positive 2x. Now eliminate fractions or decimals. I don't see any. Next step, simplify again. Well, I cannot simplify the left side. I have a constant term and a variable term. However, on the right side, I have a constant term and a constant term. So let's go ahead and combine those. I have a positive 1 and a negative 10, excuse me for yawning. Negative 10. So, you owe me $10. You pay off 1, so you still owe me $9. Now, let's get our constant terms on one side and our variable terms on the other. Bring your 2x over and make it a negative 2x. Bring your positive 7 over and make it negative 7. So 7x negative 2x equals negative 9, negative 7. Okay, you owe me $2. You have 7, so you pay off your $2 debt and you're left with a positive 5. Here you owe me 9, you owe me 7 more, so you owe me 16. Let's divide by the coefficient. Divide by the coefficient. And a negative divided by a positive is negative. One answer is 16/5. Another answer would be 5 1/5. No, that's not right. 3 1/5. Negative 3 1/5. Or another answer would be negative 3.2. Any of those answers are acceptable. Okay, number 37. Let's simplify both sides. Step 1. Take your 2 and multiply it through. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now your 5 is not right next to the parentheses, so you are not going to multiply the 5 through. That would be incorrect. So bring the 5 down. Now whenever you see a negative sign here outside of the parentheses, you can approach that two different ways. You can pretend there's 1 there, That's fine. Take a negative 1 and multiply it through. Or you can just take the sign itself and multiply the sign through. For example, if this was positive, then you would just multiply the positive sign through. Positive times a positive is positive x. Positive times a positive is positive 3. Okay? If it's a negative sign, which it is, then you take your negative and multiply it through. Negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a positive is negative. There we go. Okay, and now the parentheses are gone because just like when you multiply the 2 through the parentheses are gone. Same thing up here. Take the negative sign or negative 1, however you want to look at it, multiply it through, and your parentheses are gone. So let's simplify. Let's eliminate fractions or decimals. I don't see any. Step 2. Step 3, let's simplify both sides. This side is simplified, this side is not. I have a constant term here and a constant term here. So I owe you $3, but I have 5. So pay off my $3 debt. I'm left with positive 2. Bring down your negative x. Over here I have 6x negative 2. Now, let's get our constant terms on one side and our variable terms on the other. Bring your positive x over, and positive x is really positive 1x, of course. Bring your negative 2 over and make it a positive 2. So we have 6x plus 1x equals 2 plus 2. So 7x equals 4. Divide both sides by 7. Those cancel. X equals 4 sevenths. Okay? 4 sevenths. Or if you like decimal answers and you type into your calculator, you're going to get 0.5714. So 0.57 would also be an acceptable answer. Alright, moving on to number 38. Let's simplify both sides. Take your negative 4 and multiply it through. Negative 4 times the positive is negative. Negative 4 times the positive is negative. And then bring down your positive 5. Take your 4 and multiply it through. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 3 is positive 12. Okay, step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. I don't see any. Step 3, get your constant. Simplify both sides again. So, let's see. We have a constant term here and a constant term here. So on the left side I would have negative 4x. Then I have a negative 12. So you owe me $12 and you pay off 5, so you still owe me 7. Then over here on the right side there's no simplifying you can do. Now, let's get our variable terms on one side, our constant terms on the other side. Bring your 4x over and make it a negative 4x. Bring your negative 7 over and make it a positive 7. You owe me 4, you owe me 4 more, that's negative 8. You have 12, plus you have 7 more, so you have 19. Divide both sides by negative 8. X equals, you have a positive divided by a negative, that's a negative. So negative 19 over 8, or negative 2 3/8 would also be acceptable. Or you could also say negative 2.375. If you took 19 and divided it by 8, you would get 2.375. Alright, number 39, here we go. There's a negative sign here. If you want to put a negative 1 here and multiply it through, that's fine. I'm just going to take the negative sign and multiply it through, but step 1 says to simplify both sides. So, by the way, what if there had been nothing here at all? What if there had been no sign right here? Just x plus 2. Well, you can assume there's a plus sign here. So you would simply take that positive sign and multiply it through, okay? Which wouldn't change anything. Okay, negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a positive is negative. Then bring down your negative 2x. Over here, take your negative 2 and distribute it. Negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a positive is negative. Alright, now Step 1 is finished. Step 2, eliminate fractions or decimals. I don't see any, so we're looking pretty good, okay? Next step, simplify both sides. We'll have a constant term here and a constant term here. There's a negative 1 right here. So a negative 1, you owe me $1. You owe me $2, two more dollars. So negative 3. Then bring down your negative 2. So I got negative 3x by combining these two like terms right here. Alright? On the right side, we simply have negative 2x, negative 2. Okay, now, next step, we're going to move constant terms to one side, variable terms to the other. So this negative 2x would be over here as a positive 2x. And this negative 2 here would be a positive 2 over here. So I have negative 3x, positive 2x equals negative 2, positive 2. Well, the right side's easy. You owe me $2. You pay off your $2. You're left with nothing. Here you owe me $3. You pay off 2, so you're still left with 1. Okay? Negative 1. Now, divide both sides by a negative 1. These would cancel. 0 divided by negative 1 is just 0. 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. Okay, so the answer would be x equals 0. Alright, moving on. Number 40. Okay, step 1, simplify both sides. So let's simplify the right side. Take your negative sign and multiply it through to get rid of the parentheses. Negative times a positive is negative. Negative times a negative is positive. Then bring down your positive 10. The negative does not get distributed to the 10 because the 10 is not in parentheses. Take your negative 3 and multiply it through. Negative 3 times a positive x. And then negative 3 times a negative 2. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. So moving on to your next step, simplify both sides. Now the right side cannot be simplified. However, on the left side, I have a constant term and a constant term. So negative x, positive 11. You have $1 plus 10 more, that's 11. Now, next step, move your variable terms to one side and constant terms to the other. So bring your negative 3x over and make it a positive 3x. Bring your 11 over and make it a negative 11. Okay. So I have x, negative x, positive 3x equals positive 6 minus 11. Now, there's a 1 right here, don't forget. So you have $3, you owe me $1, so you pay off your $1 and you're still left with 2. You owe me 11, you pay off 6, you're still left with the $5 debt. So 6, negative 11 is negative 5. Now let's divide both sides by 2. X equals a negative divided by a positive is negative. 5 halves is 5 halves, or you could put 2.5, or you could put 2.5, okay? Any of those answers are acceptable as long as you don't forget the negative sign, which I did forget. Alright, moving on. Negative 5 over 2. Alright, numbers 41 and 42. Find the dimensions of the figure. Well, think about it, students. They give us a rectangle and they tell us we're dealing with the area. Now, come on, watch this. How do you find the area of a rectangle? Area of a rectangle equals what? Length times width. We know that. If I have a rectangle, it has a length of 5 and a width of 2. Multiply them together and the area is 12 square, or 10 square units. 10 square units. Okay, so my area for this rectangle is 504. So I put that in for A. My length is, and actually I should have put this in parentheses. Always use parentheses when you make a substitution. My length is 10x minus 24. And my width is 14. And they want us to solve to find the dimension. To find the dimensions of the rectangle. Now listen, to find the dimensions means to find the length and the width. However, I already know the width. So all I have to find is the length right here. Now the only way to find the length is to solve for x and then put it in right here. Okay, let me show you what I mean. Okay, here we go. Let's solve the equation. Bring down your 504. Over here on the right side, take your 14 and multiply it through. A positive times a positive is positive. And then a positive times a negative is negative. Let me grab my calculator real quick here. 24 times 14, 336. Now, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. Next step, simplify. Next step, get your variable terms on one side, constant terms on the other. So bring your negative 336 over, make it a positive 336. So on the right side, we're left with 140x. On the left side, we're left with 840. Alright, 840. Now we're going to have to divide both sides by the coefficient. So we're going to take 840 divided by 140 equals 140x divided by 140. These will cancel. 840 divided by 140 is 6. So 6 equals x. But they did not ask us to solve for x. They asked us to find the length and the width. So if x is 6, right here where x is, I'm going to make a substitution and put 6. So 10 parentheses 6 minus 24. 10 times 6 is 60. 60 negative 24, which would give us 36. So the width of the rectangle is 14. The length is 36. Alright, let's continue on. And one more problem. Alright, they give us the perimeter. Now right away you should understand that perimeter is when you add all the sides together. So to find the dimensions of all the sides, we have to solve for x first. So the perimeter equals side plus side plus side, okay? So really what you have is 23 equals, then for s we're going to put 8 minus x plus, and then for s we're going to put 5x minus 2. And then for s, it really doesn't matter which one of these you put in for which x. They're all being added, so it doesn't matter. So for this parentheses here, I'm going to put 4x plus 1. Alright? Now students, probably a lot of you did not put parentheses around this. You still get the right answer. But always be careful. I recommend you always put parentheses when you make a substitution. Anyways, what is in front of this parentheses here? Even though you cannot, that's not right. Even though you cannot see it's a positive sign. So I'm going to simplify. I'm going to take a positive sign and multiply it through. And positive times a positive is positive. Positive is a negative is negative. Now I'll take this positive sign and multiply it through. Positive times a positive is positive. And positive times a negative is negative. Take this positive sign here and multiply it through. You'll get a positive 4x and a positive 1. Now, step 2, eliminate fractions. There are none. Step 3, simplify again. Well, there's no way you can simplify 23. However, I have a constant term, and a constant term. 8, negative 2, positive 1. If you combine all those, you will get 7. Alright? You will get 7. Now, I have 3 variable terms. A negative 1x, a positive 5x, and a positive 4. If you combine a negative 1 and a positive 5 and a positive 4, you will get 8x. We're doing pretty well, guys. Now, constant terms on one side, variable terms on the other. So we're going to take our 7 and bring our 7 over to the other side and make it a negative 7. Positive 23, negative 7. You have $23, pay off a $7 debt. You're left with 16. Bring down your 8x. Now divide both sides by 8. 16 divided by 8 is 2. So there you solve for x. However, that's not what they wanted you to do. They wanted you to find the dimensions. So where x is here, I'm going to put a 2. 8 negative 2 is 6. So the length of this side here is 6. put a 2 in for x here, so I have 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So this length right here is 9. Then where the x is right here, I'm going to put a 2. 5 times 2 is 10, minus 2 is 8. So the length of this side here is 8. Alright, so the dimensions would be a 6 by 9 by 8 triangle. Alright, 6 by 9 by 8. Alright, that's it, guys. I really hope this homework help video has been a help to you. If you have any questions, never hesitate to call or email.